What is going on, guys? It is Daniel Wright, and you are here listening to another episode of Paving the Way. And guys, as always, I am happy you are here, tuned in, watching, listening, whatever it is you might be doing right now. But nonetheless, happy to have you here for episode 155 of Paving the Way. Guys, to this week, we are going to be doing a little Q&A. This is very exciting for me because we had somebody write in on our YouTube post, on our, our link, our page on YouTube where this gets posted to, send a comment in, asking a question about it. So we are going to be diving into that this week, about kind of breaking through into your market as a new vendor, a new contractor, some of the lessons I learned early on, and just trying to, help out a little bit, pass along some knowledge, and definitely highlight Salty's World 8733. Who gave us a comment. Let's get started. All right, guys, like I said, we are going to be diving into a question we received on our YouTube video from, I think it was a couple weeks ago. They were watching. It was one of the replays I think I put up about that it's going to get tough, like things are going to get hard in your business. Whether you're very early on in your business, whether you're 20 years into your business, things are going to get tough. There's always going to be difficult times. But nonetheless, I really wanted to just take this moment and say thank you to this fella or this girl who wrote in on YouTube asking a question. You guys hear it every week that I always ask, hey, guys, if there's topics, if there's questions, if there's things you want me to expand on, elaborate on, please let me know. And out of the last 154 episodes, I think I've had one or two people actually respond and take me up on that. So either you guys are already, know all the answers and what you need to know for your businesses or whatever it might be, or you just don't really care to have me elaborate on it because I flap my gums enough. Either way, I want to go ahead and just give a shout out to this person for writing in their question this past week for me to jump on it with you guys. So, like I said, I've got a question here. I'm just going to go ahead and read it so we can kind of set the baseline for what we're going to be talking about. And this is from the username on YouTube is Salty's World 3733. So if that's you, thank you. All right. I said, hi, I watch your videos. Thank you for making them. I'm just starting out, so I appreciate the knowledge. I am realizing very quickly that 80% of business needing striping is corporations. How do I break through? I became a vendor and I never hear from them. How do you guys get into that market? I live in a big city, so there is a lot of potential, but just like a rock with potential, I am not moving. Help. I had to read that last part again. I was like, a rock with, okay. Well, that is an absolutely regular occurrence for most businesses that are trying to get started. Without actually having a conversation with this person here, it's going to be a little bit tough to give, complete context because I don't have complete context. But nonetheless, I can kind of jump in a little bit here and elaborate how we got into stuff. All right. So that you guys have probably heard the story before, but I got into this business, into Proline with it already existing. So I took over this business. I purchased this business from the founder, Craig, who started it as a part-time job. I wrote him a nice little check for his business that consisted of one striping machine, a trailer, and the name. The last part there, though, the name, that is the really big thing that came with the business. So he had been working this company as a part-time job for several years before I purchased it from him. So therefore, the name was already kind of known in the industry. And he had done a handful of jobs for some large businesses, large companies, large property management firms that was just, striping related, because that's all he had gotten into when he was running it. So when I was able to take it over and I wanted to, grow and expand, I had to figure out through trial and error what were the jobs that we really wanted to try and focus on. And I think at the end of the day, guys, just like anything else, especially for this individual who looks like they are just starting out, right? They're just getting set up as a vendor with some of these, potential clients they want to work with, or they're just getting their names out there to these businesses or property management firms that they want to try and do work with in their city. And the fact that you said here, the 80% of businesses needing striping is corporations. Yeah, it's the big box stores. It's the big property management companies, the hotels, the big restaurant chains, the parking decks, the whatever, apartment complexes, whatever it might be. So they are the larger companies. And I'll tell you right now, they typically have a larger barrier of entry, right? There's some of them that haven't figured that out yet. But nonetheless, they have a larger barrier of entry for a reason. Okay. Unfortunately, when you're just starting out, I did a podcast on this probably about a month or two ago about you have to be able to prove your worth before someone's going to give you an opportunity to be able to consistently keep showing up that you're worth what you proved, right? So I think it was something along. I'd have to look back. It was something about prove your worth and know your value, and know what you bring to the table. But you have to prove it first. So when you're just trying to get into these places, if you're getting put on their vendor portals, that's great. But the vendor portal isn't telling the property manager or is telling the facilities director or the maintenance director. It's not going to them and saying, hey, you should use XYZ company because they're in our portal now, right? You have to keep showing up in front of them. You have to keep showing up in front of them digitally and in person, right? So there was a lot of times where I would go out and I would do 1 or 2 estimates in a day, and I'd have a stack of extra, just like brochures or pamphlets that I would keep in my truck with me. And I would try and look up some different property management companies or facilities companies and figure out if they were anywhere close to where I was doing an estimate. If they were, I would go drop in, say, hey, just want to drop this off. My name's Daniel. I own Proline. This is what we do. Just figure I'd drop it off for anybody who might need this information. Right? It's not a big sales pitch. I'm not taking up a bunch of time. And let's be honest, half the time those brochures and those pamphlets probably ended up in the trash and they never got anywhere. But nonetheless, I kept showing up. Right? So we showed up that way, in person. But also one thing we did from the get-go is I got on an agency for our Google ads. I got on someone helping us with our Google account, our paid ads, our presence, our Google My Business profile, anything that we needed to be able to show up where 99.9% of people go to look for services, which is they pull out their phone, they go into the search bar and they type in XYZ services near me. And that's it. So I wanted to make sure that when people take the path of least resistance to find their service, that I was going to show up on that path of least resistance. And so making sure that we were set up to be optimized with our Google presence, right? And I know I said that I got someone on board to help us with our Google side of stuff, but just as important on the other side of that is our entire web presence. Okay, so we made sure our website was optimized so that way when someone typed in, we call it line striping or restriping in our business, but someone might call it, line painting or stall painting or parking lot painting. We had all these different things set up in our website so that way when they were searching in Google or searching in their different search engines, that it would pull those words from our website to show up to make sure that we were on the top of those results. And I'll be honest with you guys, we didn't really even show up on the sponsored or the paid ads for a while because I just didn't put that much money into it. We were organically showing up as one of the top ranked, companies in our area. And we still do show up in one of the top organic ranked, companies when people search for the, pavement services in the Charlotte area. But nonetheless, I realized that what's the easiest way people are going to find us? Online. Because I don't know where every single office is to go drop off a brochure or a pamphlet to every single person. And in this day and age where people are working remote, you can go drop off information, but the chances of someone actually being there that you need to talk to, it's probably a 50-50 shot. So there's a lot of individuals that we work with that they don't ever actually go to their offices. They're on the road all the time. They're working remote. They're in a completely different country or different state, whatever it might be. And we're having to work with them here in the Charlotte area. But nonetheless, we wanted to make sure that we had our internet presence dialed in. So we showed up consistently digitally, and we showed up consistently in person. I also wanted to make sure that as we were continuing to grow ourselves, we had a brand that was extremely recognizable. Right? The original logo that came with the company, we still use it. It's still on our shirts today. But as far as how the trucks and the trailers look, I ramped up, that logo to make sure that it was extremely recognizable anywhere somebody sees us. And so now if you look at our trucks or our trailers, you see the big yellow stripe going up the side of them. And that's kind of like to be honest, it's kind of similar to the Nike swoosh. Everybody knows that like Nike swoosh just on anything Nike related. I get people who call me, text me and say, oh, I saw the yellow stripe going down the highway, because people just know that that's our company. That's our brand. And so my question to you asking this question is, what is your brand? Are you recognizable? Do you have a name that screams, I want to do your line striping or your pavement service or whatever the service you might be doing. Because if you're not recognizable, if you're not something that screams they need to use you right when they see you, hear you, recognize you, whatever it might be, then you're probably just going to be falling by the wayside. And so making sure that you have that brand established that is recognizable, that's professional, it's clean, it's neat. It doesn't have, your business name isn't 87 words long and they got to try and remember all of it, or some name that has absolutely nothing to do with the services you're offering. Get it clear, get it concise, know exactly what it is that you're offering, and they know what you're offering right when they see that name and that brand. And so once you get all that established, right? Like once you get the presence established, digitally and in person, once you get that brand established, you got to just start racking up your portfolio. You got to start taking whatever jobs that you can get. Okay. I can tell you right now that the jobs that I did within the first, year or so of my business versus the jobs that we do now are completely different scales. I remember very vividly the very first job I ever got paid to go do, that someone called me, that I didn't reach out to someone I knew and said, hey, can you just like cover my paint materials so I can get some practice in? The very first person who called me was some company that had a storage unit and they needed an ADA installation put in, a striping installation. I didn't even know what ADA stood for at the time, but I said I'd come do it. And I kid you not, guys, it took me so freaking long to figure out how to do this simple striping job to put in one handicap marking and one hash box to bring them to ADA restripe compliance or whatever they were looking for. And I look back on it now, and I mean, yeah, we would still do that. We still do them to this day because ADA is a huge thing in our industry. But nonetheless, we really try to, go, I don't want to say we try to go after, but we actually attract a lot larger type of jobs than those. We oftentimes actually have clients tell us, hey, I'm sure you're probably too big to do this, but, and we always tell them, no, we're not too big to do it. We're happy to help you out. Like, we understand and we don't forget where we came from, because those projects are what built the foundation to where we're at now. And so making sure that early on, yes, you see the big corporations when you're driving around and you dream about wanting to stripe the big box stores or the big parking decks or the big, stadium parking lots, whatever it is you may be seeing in your area. But you have to be willing to take the reps. You have to get the reps in early on and do the small jobs, do the ones for less money than what you would like to be making. And you have to just start stacking. So that way you build the credibility with those larger corporations that you're ultimately trying to get into. Because then when you land that phone call or when you land that meeting with that bigger company you want to get, you can then tell them, be like, hey, yeah, we've actually done all this work over here. Let me show you photos or videos, or, go drive by all these locations that we've already done to see how good of work we have. Because if you have no proof of why they should use you, regardless of whether you got into their vendor portal, then it really doesn't matter, right? That's why, companies always ask for reviews on Google, because they want the proof to show new potential clients. It says, hey, all these other hundreds of people work with us and they have this to say about us. Same thing with you. You can say, hey, there's these other 10 projects that are right around the corner from you that I took care of. Go check them out for yourself. See if it looks good enough to give us a shot. So you got to sometimes try to just push yourself in there by taking the reps and getting the portfolio built up to back up your request to want to work with them, right? And so that's kind of the big steps to really take when you're trying to break through into that new market, is make sure that you've got your presence figured out to be in front of them both in person and digitally. Make sure you've got a brand built that's strong enough that screams you want to provide this service and they need to use you. It's easy to remember. It's clear about what you do, and it just gets straight to the point. And then make sure that you start getting the reps in to build up your portfolio. If you look back at our social media pages over the years, since I started posting on Instagram and Facebook for our company's page, I was posting everything, whether it was the little job with just one handicap and a hash box to it, or whether it was the big jobs that we got to do whole apartment complexes or shopping centers or whatever it might be. I was posting everything because I wanted to build credibility. I wanted to establish authority with our brand in our market, in our industry. And that's why you're watching these videos today. You're paying attention to these last 155 videos because we've established some sort of credibility and authority in our industry and in our market. When I say we, I count for my team as well, because I wouldn't be here doing this as the face of this if it wasn't for the team that we've had along the way, right? And so you have to make sure that when you're trying to break into these markets, when you're trying to break into these industries, that you're willing to get in the reps and do what it takes early on. You're doing the shit that the big companies don't want to do anymore. You're picking up what some people refer to as the breadcrumbs of your industry, right? Eventually, if you get enough crumbs up, it's going to equal a whole loaf of bread. And that's the approach that I took for years, is we were just chasing breadcrumbs. We wanted to be the company that wanted to take care of all the stuff that the big guys didn't want to handle, but yet we were capable of doing the big stuff as well. And so that's how we eventually started building up a foundation big enough to support the growth that we have, to support the individuals on our team that we have, to support the brand, the authority, the recognition that we have in our industry and in our market, is that we were willing to get in the reps, eating the breadcrumbs day in and day out. There were days where I would drive to 2, 3, 4, 5 different projects as breadcrumb jobs to piece it all together and make sure that we were getting it, that we were building that portfolio. So my suggestion to you is this, all right? Are you doing what it takes to prove your value, to be able to make sure that the vendors that you're wanting to, or the accounts that you're wanting to get in with, to make sure that they have no choice but to give you a try? Or are you just another flyer in the mail? Are you just another ad on Google? Are you just another sponsored post on Facebook or Instagram? You have to build the proof before people are willing to recognize your value. And I cannot stress that enough, because I don't know how long this guy or this girl has been trying to build their business or get into their market, but either way, I can promise you, if you're having trouble getting in with those companies, it hasn't been long enough. Because the one thing that you cannot get the secret to, the one thing that you cannot buy the trick or the secret sauce or the hack, is time. You got to pay your dues. You got to be willing to do what other people are not willing to do for longer than they're willing to do it, right? Because eventually, people like yourself might find themselves in a situation where they're saying, man, I've been trying for like 6 months and I haven't got the Lowe's yet. Or I've been trying for 3 months and I haven't got the account for all the McDonald's yet. Or I haven't got name the account that you're trying to get. But look at the time horizon in which you've been trying to get it. I heard something along the lines at one point that said, most people overestimate what they can do in a day, but they underestimate what they can do in a decade, right? We've been doing this. It'll be 9 years that I've been in this business come August of this year. So 9 years I've been working on this. And I still genuinely feel like it's day one every day I come in here, right? I still feel like I've got everything to prove to everyone else out there. I still feel like someone could come in and take all this away tomorrow. I still feel like that I have to make sure I'm proving my value to our clients day in and day out. And now, granted, 9 years in, it may not be me specifically proving the value day in and day out, but it's our team, it's our standards, it's our expectations, right? Because that's who we are. And we have to continue to show up and continue to prove our worth and to prove our value and hold to our standards day in and day out, regardless of how we feel. The running joke around here, if you ask anybody who knows me, anybody who works with me, I always say, whenever we're talking about something and it's something going good and things are running well or whatever it might be, I always kind of look at them with a little smirk. I'm like, hey, one day we're going to have a real business. We're getting one step closer to having a real business. And that's that little kind of smart-assy comment that I make that keeps me humble inside, to say I have to show up and prove my worth every day. I have to show up and keep putting in the effort, one foot in front of the other, building this thing every single day. And if you don't have that mentality right now, when you're trying to break into your market, wherever you're at, that's why you're not winning. You think it should come easy. You think that just because you filled out the paperwork and got into their vendor portal, that they should start giving you work. You think that just because you had a cool logo design with AI or on Fiverr or somewhere, on Adobe or whatever it might be, that you're going to be the next hot shot. You think that just because you make a selfie video in the parking lot or in the lawn or whatever industry that you're in, that everybody's just going to flock to you. It's not the case. Okay, because you're getting beat out by guys like me that are 9 years into it, treating this like it's the very first opportunity we get. Like it's the very first impression that we get to make for somebody. Okay, And that's the fire that you got to have. As you can see right now, I'm getting fired up talking about this because it's what's exciting about entrepreneurship. It's what's exciting about leadership. It's what's exciting about building this business that we get to operate in and day out and provide for the lives of other people and their families, is that we have to put in the effort just like it's day one, every single day. We cannot settle on our laurels. We cannot just relax and take it easy and coast, right? We're having one of the best years we've ever had in our entire history of this business. And we're still in here grinding every day. We're still in here pushing and asking, why didn't this get done on this day? Why did this message get sent this way? Does this make sense for this client? Do we have this prepared? We know what to do, but we have to keep pushing. We have to keep executing and raising our level of standards day in and day out. Because if we don't, someone will come pass us right up and we're left in the dust. Okay. So like I said, make sure that you've got yourself in front of the clients that you want to get in front of, both in person and digitally. Invest time, invest money, invest education in that to understand it and be on top of it. Make sure that you have a brand and a business and a name and a logo that is clean, it's crisp, it's consistent, and it's clear. Because that's what people are going to recognize you by. All right. And then from there, make sure you're starting to put in the reps. Make sure you're stacking the reps. Make sure you're building the portfolio and you're just building the proof by every project you complete that proves you're worth those ideal clients giving you a try. And last but not least, every day is day one. Nobody owes you anything. It's the great thing about business and it's the terrible thing about business. No one owes you anything, but yet you can go accomplish whatever you want to accomplish. You just have to want it bad enough. So guys, I hope that provides you a little bit of value today. As always, I appreciate the support. I appreciate this question getting sent in on the YouTube channel this past week. And I hope that helped answer a little bit of that and maybe put a little bit of fire under your ass to get going. Guys, if you want to follow along to the journey I'm talking about, this leadership journey, this business journey, whatever it is, definitely check out the other videos, the other links that I post in these posts, whether you're looking at it on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, any of the major platforms. We've got the business page over there that follows our whole journey day in and day out, shows who we are and what we do. But nonetheless, guys, I want to make sure that you know that everything I'm talking about here is real. It's the stuff that we're going through day in and day out. So what's the thing that the Instagram and the influencers say? They say like and subscribe, right? So we always appreciate the likes. We always appreciate the subscribes because we bust our ass to make sure that we're putting out content that helps other contractors, that helps clients, or that just, straight up is entertaining for you guys, because we all know we do some of that. So as always, I appreciate you. Like and subscribe. Shoot some more comments if you want to be called out on some Q&As. Who knows? If it's the right type of question, maybe I'll try and get somebody on here and we can do a live Q&A discussion and provide some entertainment for you that way. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, guys. Keep kicking ass. Push into this summer, whatever your industry you may be in. I hope it's going well for you and it's starting off just the way you want. If you need anything,